All right. Well, welcome to MSK Innovations, the pitch event for October 2nd. We're privileged today to have 3 presenters and 3 panelists. And so I just want to welcome you. My name is Drew DeAngelis, the managing partner of the DeAngelis Group. We're an executive search firm that operates in the musculoskeletal space. And it's my honor today to welcome 3 people from different companies, and they'll all each introduce themselves at the appropriate time. But before we get to that, I just want to provide a small disclaimer. MSK Innovations is for informational purposes only. We're not an advisor, investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. So anything that you learn today is for informational purposes only. And if you have any interest in doing any further diligence, by all means, please do so by reaching out directly to the people who are presenting today. So today I have 3 distinguished panelists, 2 you've seen before, and 1 new one that his first time here. So I'm going to ask, starting with Jeff O'Donnell, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Drew, and thanks for hosting this again. Jeff O'Donnell, I'm a general partner at a venture studio, medical device venture studio called Runway Healthcare. My role there, in addition to being a general partner in the fund, is I act as the fractional CEO to all of our portfolio companies. I've spent the last 15 years in the medical device space, primarily in orthopedics, but also some time in the cardiovascular space. So.
Excellent. Chris, would you go next?
Sure. Chris Lyons. I'm CEO of Southern Metrics Consulting. I've been in the industry now for 35 years. About the first 13 were within marketing and sales commercialization roles with Smith & Nephew. And the second 13 doing mostly M&A for Medtronic Spine.
Excellent. Thank you. And Charlie Lewis, would you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Charlie Lewis. I'm with SkySong Innovations. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Arizona State University. We protect and commercialize all the new inventions that come out of the university that are university owned, which would be faculty created inventions. I've been here for 20 years, and in that span of time, we've launched 210 new startups and 1.4 billion in aggregate funding that's gone into those companies, and we've had 14 exits. Still waiting for our blockbuster, but we've had some singles and doubles and 1 triple.
Great. Charlie, you left out the Mayo Clinic MedTech Accelerator Program.
Yeah, there's an alliance between ASU and Mayo Clinic that President Crow forged when he first came in 2003. I joined ASU 6 months after he joined. And one of the things in that alliance that myself and a cardiologist over at Mayo, we launched the Mayo Clinic ASU MedTech Accelerator. We've been doing that for 6 years now, and we pick 8 to 10 companies every year from throughout the world, and they come here for 2 weeks, and that's pretty fun program. You know, it's highly competitive, and I think we've had every continent represented now, except for Greenland. I think that's the only one we don't have.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So the way this will work today is that each presenter will be given 10 minutes to do their pitch, present their slides to these panelists who will be thinking of some brilliant questions to ask, not to stump, but just to uncover the real value and just to further explore opportunity there for investment. And so after that, they'll ask questions, and then if If you're in the audience, we encourage you to also feel free to put your question in the chat section. And so we're going to do kind of an east to west. We're going to start with Max Munford from the UK. So Max, go ahead and share your screen and kick it off.
Great, thank you very much, Drew. And thank you everyone for having me here. It's a pleasure. So I'd like to talk to you today about OSSTEC. We are a 3D printing company based over here in London, UK, originally from Imperial College London. And we're all around using 3D printing to empower patients with joint replacements to stay active for longer. So as we see it, there are three main market tailwinds which are really driving some issues with my slides there, which are really driving the orthopedics market at the minute. There's a growing need for early intervention, and we're seeing increasing volumes. More and more people need to be treated every year. And like many other markets, we're asking everyone to manage all of this at an increasingly lower price. And what we're seeing is with this, there's a huge movement to treat people with an outpatient surgery techniques. And there are two key technical headwinds that face us, two key challenges. The first is fixation. Whether or not you're using cemented or cementless fixation, there are still problems there. And the second is supply chain, and in particular unit costs, particularly driven by that downwards pressure on prices. So as is often the case, we believe that keeping things simple is the solution here. And to that end, we've developed an innovative 3D printing process where we can 3D print both the articulating surface of any joint and the bone fixing surface of the joint at the same time. So we can simplify the whole manufacturing process, and we're able to provide that at a reduced cost. So we've developed this in conjunction with a number of leading surgeons, and all of it, we've ensured that the way that we develop our devices and the way that we use our devices is ideal for the outpatient setting. And crucially, with our technology here, we see opportunities for this not just in any one specific joint, but at a portfolio level. So we're operating within the market for cementless orthopedic devices, and this is set to reach $10 billion next year and is growing in excess of 20% year on year. And the market for our first product, which is going to be a partial knee replacement, a cementless partial knee replacement, that's set to reach $3 billion by 2035. So we're seeing huge growth for both our technology and also our first products. So if we focus on the knee to start with, set against that backdrop of the need for earlier intervention and outpatient surgery, and the volumes that we see in the knee market at the minute, we believe that our ability to print both the articulating surface, that mirror finish, and the biomimetic porous surface on the backside of the joint presents a really compelling value proposition here. And we're currently seeking funds as part of our $6.3 million raise, which will take us through to FDA approval and product launch next year. So our first product, this cementless partial knee, is called Ascent, and it integrates this ability for us to print, for the first time, a cobalt chrome mirror finish surface, which means that we can simplify the whole manufacturing process, and we can improve the fixation in articulating implants by having this biomimetic backside surface, as well as actually improving the articulating surface as well. So this product isn't just the device itself. There's also, of course, an instrumentation kit around this. We've called it Clarity because it gives surgeons exactly that. The team of surgeons that we're working with really like using the particular workflow that we've developed, and we've actually found that it reduces the operating room burden and minimizes the learning curve for new surgeons who are new to using partial knee surgeries. So as you can tell, our technology, our product, and the way that we're training surgeons to perform these procedures is all centered around the outpatient surgery. We believe that our device will enable surgeons to save costs. That's on both direct costs on implants, as well as consumables and also tray sterilization, but also for them to operate at a much greater efficiency. That's with faster surgeries and, again, minimizing tray usage. And all of this, again, is set against a backdrop of extremely high growth in outpatient surgery. So as I mentioned, that we're originally based in Imperial College London, so it would be remiss of me to not mention the wealth of preclinical evidence that we've developed over the past 10 years of research at Imperial. So we've published 25 peer-reviewed papers. We presented at 8 conference podium presentations and conducted, that number's now out of date, 20 cadaver labs. And all of this wealth of information shows that we are actually able to print, and with our patented processes, we can manufacture a smoother, more refined wear surface than even conventional cast cobalt chrome. And we can actually improve and optimize implant fixation methods even compared to cement. And we've also found, as I mentioned, that we're able to minimize that learning curve for new surgeons wanting to use our new technique for cementless partial knee surgeries. We've actually also got some really great sheep data, some great animal data, where we found that we're able to, with our biomimetic scaffold, we're able to encourage bone to grow not just into the device to give you that long-term biologic fixation, but also we achieve a much better bone maintenance around the implant, and that means that you can minimize the effects of migration and subsidence after the procedure as well. And we also have some great data around reducing fracture risk as well. As I said, all of this is published data either in peer-reviewed papers or at conferences over the past few years. And in terms of the company's assets, we've got 7 patent families which patent and protect key areas of our technology, both at a technology level but also at a product level. And these span 5 key markets for us. In terms of comparing to other devices on the market, of course, partial knee devices do exist elsewhere on the market. However, this device is a cementless partial knee, which currently is not available in the US, although it's definitely a space that we're aware of keen interest. And the key differentiators for us here is that we're able to 3D print that articulating surface so that we can actually improve fixation in articulating joints. And this means that we can bring so many of the benefits that industry has already seen in other applications into articulating joints as well. So as I mentioned, we'll be launching next year, and we are in regular contact with the FDA at the minute. And we have received some really great information from them that this will be a 510K route to market without a pre-market clinical study. We'll then be running a post-market study in the US to generate value and evidence, which we know many of our surgeon users and also strategic partners will be keeping a keen eye on. And we also, beyond that, have some amazing plans to scale with further product development and also robotic integration as well. And we have some really exciting partnerships which are taking place at the minute with key strategic players in the space as well. So the team has really been there and done much of what we need to do before. My background is as an engineer. I worked very briefly in medical devices and surgical robotics before doing my PhD in 3D printing for orthopedics. Our CTO has exited his previous company to one of the large orthopedics and has a wealth of experience, not just in orthopedics engineering, but with startups as well. And our chair brings a whole wealth of strategic and acquisition experience as well. I'd like to talk about our surgeons because we're particularly proud of them. Our surgeons are really an integral part of the company. They're directly embedded in our development process, and they'll be leading the charge with our early surgeries as well. Beyond this, we've, over the past year and a half since our seed round, been able to build out a really amazing team, combining engineers and regulatory experience and also experience from academia as well. And as I say, we're really proud of this team. They are the all-stars who are doing all the heavy lifting at the minute. So in terms of previous funding, we closed our seed round last year. To date, we've raised 2.5 million USD. 1 million of that was in non-dilutive funds. The previous round was participated in by the founders, surgeons, experts from the area, and also early stage VCs as well. And since then, we've been able to expand our team to really achieve so much of the technical development that I've had the pleasure of speaking to you about today. been able to capture so much of the IP that we've developed along the way, set our regulatory strategy, and also engage some really key strategic partners who will help lift this off the ground and scale it later on. We're currently raising our 6.3 million round, and we have a subject expert VC, is the MedTech US VC, who's leading this round, and we're seeking further participation to close things out here as soon as possible. This round will enable us to proceed through FDA submission to launch our device next year, and beyond that, develop a second product as well to really realize the full impact of our core technologies. Thank you very much for listening. I welcome any questions. Thank you very much. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Great. Great. Well done. Panelists?
Yeah, nice presentation, Max. 2 questions for you. One on uni versus TKR. I assume the total might be the second project. And then what would be the lift to get to the TKR? The second question is, from a differentiation standpoint, how do you see you guys competing against Conformis' knee, which is obviously now in the restored portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. Uni versus totals, we can argue about that all night, I think. So there's a whole wealth of literature to show that. I should mention we're biased. I came from the Imperial Research Group. We are biased by the use of unis. Total knees absolutely have their place, but I think, for the right patient, there's a whole wealth of data and research publications to show that, particularly for younger patients who want to be more active for longer, a less invasive surgery such as a uni offered at a reduced cost to the provider is better, not just in terms of patient-reported outcomes, but also cost effectiveness in the short and long term as well. So for us, yeah, totals absolutely have their place, and yeah, we will be developing further products as well. But the uni also makes a huge amount of sense, because if you look at where they fail, they fail disproportionately highly in loosening, which, as I say, is what our technology is all about. So as a first product, it makes a whole stack of sense for us to start there. I didn't quite catch your second question. I think it was around timelines for a second product.
No, I think you kind of answered that as it related to total. The second question was more around how do you see yourself competing, or what might be the differentiation between your product and Conformis' 3D knee, which is now owned by Restored?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently there's no cementless partial knee on the market. I dare say a good number of companies have that in the pipeline. Our device will be going to market next year. But also in terms of differentiation, we have done a whole lot of characterization, and the key 2 areas where we differentiate is in this reduced COGS, where we can simplify the whole manufacturing process and the post-processing steps as well. But also, and with that obviously leading to improved fixation because of our biomimetic scaffold, but also this idea of reducing migration, which all unis and total knees for that matter see at the minute as well. And we have some really great IP in our particular lattice technology, which addresses migration.
So I wanted to make sure
Sorry.
I understood. I was just going to ask real quick. So you're focusing on the femoral component. What about tibial?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting point, because if we were having this conversation a year and a half, 2 years ago, you'd have asked the opposite question. Our IP around the femur has really evolved in quite a lovely way, where we uncovered and found that we had some additional capabilities that kind of spawned miraculously over time. So the tibia was our original focus, and we sort of pivoted slightly as literature has shown slightly more failures. Indeed, previous cementless femoral devices have failed from a shearing of porous coating on the backside of the implant. So our focus there is I suppose partly in response to that. By manufacturing the whole femoral component in one piece, it's not possible for the porous coating to shear away from the implant. And also that femoral component is where we see a huge amount of potential for reducing COGS as well. I guess to speak to the tibia, if I can focus more on that sort of subsidence and migration point, that the tibia is typically where you see more subsidence and migration, and our IP in that space directly addresses that as well.
So you will have a full polyethylene insert, femoral component, and a tibial tray.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, but it's the full. So Ascent as a system is femur, poly, tibia with the clarity instrumentation as well. Absolutely.
What would the total joint resection be? Because I saw on that one slide it only spoke to femur.
The total joint resection, we've kept it. We've kept it slightly. We believe that there should be the minimal amount of bone resection possible. So to that end, we've kept the resection slightly thinner than other devices.
Okay.
Max, I got three quick questions for you. One is, so your animal model you did using sheep. Have you thought in parallel while you're going down the 510K path of doing anything in the vet space for animals as a commercial product? And then the second one is on the IP. I think you said you had 7 families. Just what are the primary claims, patent claims, and what's the status of those patents? Have you filed PCTs that have not been nationalized yet in the countries you're targeting? So just what's the status on those applications? And then the third one was for your predicate for the 510K. Is the predicate going to be a 3D printed predicate, or is it going to be some other implant? What are you envisioning for that?
Yeah. Okay. So vet space. This question comes up a lot. We have explored it, and we're not going down that route. Reason for that being that right now, for a company of our size, I think focus is really valuable, and to that end, not diverting resources away from getting to market as soon as possible in the larger and more lucrative market for us of human devices. We've taken the position that we're not going to pursue anything in the vet space at this time. That could well change in the future, but it is a good point. I take your point. In terms of IP, all of our patents are at PCT filing at this stage, and several of the more strategically valuable patents have been expedited into international filing in the key markets. So that's US and UK, and 1 or 2 others as well.
And then the predicate.
Yes, sorry. The predicate is actually not a printed device. However, we're using a predicate which matches the product code for our device, and we've discussed all of this with the FDA. There's a very nice kind of paper trail to what I'm about to say, but we will be using a predicate device. It's not a printed device. We'll be layering in with that reference devices, which support where we've adjusted material in lieu of 3D printing.
Okay, thank you.
And you expect to file the 510K by when, roughly?
That'll be in 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a question from the audience asking how you plan to address the VAC committees and hospital contract approval process in the U.S.
Yeah, great question. We're working with a number of hospitals at the minute on this, largely led by our surgeon team and several other people as well who weren't on the slides. So far we haven't had too many issues with them, and those conversations are all going fairly smoothly. I think the desire to move away from cement and reduce consumable costs certainly proving very popular with that committees.
So I had a quick question, Max. You mentioned the articular surface being 3D printed also. Are you referring to the femoral component or the poly?
That's the femoral component, and the poly is vitamin E ultra high molecular weight poly.
Great.
I think poly is good. We shouldn't be innovating in poly too much more.
Yeah, so that's going to be machined.
Yeah. Wonderful. Any last questions? All right. Well, Max, thank you so much for that presentation. Excellent presentation. And so we will now ask Ted to go ahead and share his screen. Ted Bird, from Askel Healthcare, and you might recognize him from Dynacron and a few other companies. I think Ted sits on a dozen or so boards right now.
And just hanging out in convention halls. That's what we all love to do.
Okay, let me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes.
got you.
Very good. Let me upsize this slide. Can you see the whole screen now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon. It's an absolute pleasure to be on this forum. It's particularly orthopedics only, musculoskeletal only companies. I've done a lot of presentations at medtech conferences where you're buried in there between the pharma, the digital, the robot, and the wearable technology. So it's great to be in where I've been for over 4 decades now in orthopedics. And I'm the non-executive chairman of Askel Healthcare, based in Tampere, Finland. And filling in this afternoon for the co-founder and CEO, Virpi Mohanan, because they are 7 hours ahead. So it's midnight. She had a travel plan for tomorrow. I will put a plug in for the end of October, at the end of this month. Askel will be presenting at the Memphis New Ventures Conference, which Chris Lyons is a co-host with Gary Stevenson and Mike Sherman. And Virpi just this morning agreed to get on a plane and fly over from Finland. So she will be in Memphis with me to present to Askel. But let me just dive in. Askel is a focal knee cartilage defect repair for first-line surgical treatment company with a really innovative technology. I'm incredibly excited about what this company is doing. Company is currently, for a snapshot, in the clinical phase. I got a slide on it later. We've got a first-in-human clinical safety study completed now with 20 patients at 5 sites in Scandinavia, doing great. There's 10 full-time employees, all in Finland today. Raised 10 million euros in seed funding, 4 million of which is non-dilutive grant funding from the European Innovation Council. Strong IP around the core technology and production capabilities in-house up in Tampere, Finland. And the market opportunity is huge. There's over 600,000 patients that apply here out of the 4 million or so scoped knees that go on every year. We're currently raising a 20 million euro A round and looking for lead investors to join us on that journey where we're making good progress and have about 50% already committed. So I'm going to tell a story about one of our patients in the clinical first-in-human study, and introduce Tina with 2 eyes, which is the Finnish spelling for Tina. Tina's a typical patient prospect for knee cartilage defect repair, active 42-year-old woman, likes to ski, run, hike, ice swim in Finland, suffered a traumatic knee injury while playing tennis. Her lifestyle is compromised due to pain, swelling, locking of that knee. The defect shows a 1.7 centimeter lesion and a loose piece of loose body cartilage in the joint cavity. If it's left untreated, she obviously has a risk, like the patient in this category, to progress into and down that road of osteoarthritis. So what does Tina's future look like? What's the patient pathway for patients like Tina? Well, the conservative treatment is pain, medication, physiotherapy, injections, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Well, that's back in the pain medication. But the first-line surgical treatment of today is known as debridement or microfracture primarily. Although the clinical results of this surgical treatment is not great, just doesn't show great results. The alternative to that is an allograft transplant, osteoallograft transplant procedure called OATS. And again, the clinical outcomes experience with this current first-line surgical treatment is not great. And so then they progress usually to the second line surgical treatment, where it's dominated by a company called Vericel that has a product called MACI that's a stem cell, human autograft kind of stem cell grown by the company and sent back to be implanted, as well as various allograft and a number of other, quite an active area where there's a lot of developments of different hyaline cartilage type implants, together with even some metal titanium small plug implants that go in. It's just more invasive surgery, and then ultimately you're into a total knee joint. And when you think about Tina, who's 42, if she doesn't do well with this current procedure, or even the second procedure, within 10 years she's going to be in line for a total knee, and she's only going to be 52, which is still young for a total knee.
Mm-hmm.
So COPLA really stands for, it's the acronym for collagen and polylactide. So that's where COPLA comes from. It's developed for what really makes Askel stand apart is immediate mobility, the ability for the patient to get weight bearing immediately post-op and regenerate the cartilage. It's an off-the-shelf one surgery solution made of synthetic and natural polymers. It allows that immediate full weight bearing, which is a major step forward in first-line surgical treatment, which enables the patient to get rehab much faster and fosters cartilage regeneration. How does it do that? So it looks like, you see the picture here, it's a fabric. But again, back to the first line versus the second line positioning of COPLA. First line is easy and early. You've got active adults. You don't have the osteoarthritis. It's affordable. It's easy. It's short surgery. But the results are short term. The second line, you see MACI with Vericel. You see Agili-C that came from CartiHeal that Bioventus attempted to put in their portfolio and didn't work out. So they went on to Smith & Nephew. Older patients, more complex defects and stage of osteoarthritis, large and second procedures after initial failure. So and much more costly. The Vericel MACI procedure is between $50,000 to $60,000. So that's kind of what the picture looks like. The massive unmet need, as I mentioned, 600,000. 2 out of 3. Everybody who gets knee cartilage lesion repair operations, 600,000 of them are small and medium-sized defects, which is the market opportunity for COPLA. And then 1 out of 3 adults have knee cartilage lesions when they scope. When they get the scope in there, they generally are going to see that, and that's based on a Steinmetz paper quoted down below. So the mechanism, what is the mechanism of action for COPLA, this fabric? Well, the scientific principle is that for cartilage to form, mechanical loading is needed. It just can't, cartilage cannot form without that loading. And if it's not loaded, it starts to self-destruct. Current cartilage repair methods require restricted loading. So the patients are usually kept off that leg for 4 to 6 weeks. And the difference with Askel's COPLA is it enables unrestricted loading from day one, which produces this kind of pumping action that creates the beginnings of the regeneration process right after surgery, and then the polylactid formation creates this space for bone cells and active hyaline cartilage cells to grow. Benefits are short term, for quick return to activity. Long term, it's durable. It's for the surgeon, it's simple. It's an off-the-shelf, single stage, arthroscopic or mini open delivery. For the hospital or the payer, it's very affordable, accessible with a low failure rate. So we're at a point where we finished our first in human safety study in this summer in June, and the first 6 months results are already showing tremendous, 3 months here showing tremendous KOOS scores on pain and function recovery. But remarkably, we're also measuring the number of steps. So already at week 6, on average, the patients are showing almost 9,000 steps on a day, and no pain medication needed. So very encouraging. And the chairman of the clinical advisory board is a name in the field of cartilage cell therapies for cartilage repair, is Mats Brittberg in Sweden. He's kind of known as the father of cell therapies for cartilage repair. I'm excited that he's joined the company as the chairman of the clinical advisory board. I'm very excited about what he's seeing. He was one of the sites in his hospital is one of the sites in the clinical safety study. Strong team. As I said, I joined as chairman of the board. The company decided strategically to recruit some U.S. board members. So both myself on the bottom there and Patrick Jamnik, who is the current president of Episurf. It's another knee cartilage repair company that's actually based out of Sweden. He's president of Episurf US. But this team is really dynamic. The co-founders on the top left are Verpi and Anna Marie. They're both PhDs, Verpi in biomaterials. Anna Marie in biomaterials and Verpi in biomechanics. So it's almost an ideal combination. And if you notice, they're all female. In fact, all of the current management members are female, but that was not by design. I think if you look at the board, we balanced that out. But I tease people that I was the first diversity hire for the company, but they explained that it was just the job description. They put it together and said, this is who we're looking for, the best of the best. We're a startup in Finland, and the females rose to the top. So I'm excited to support this female founded and led team, and really enjoying working with them. The roadmap, so as I mentioned, we're raising 20 million euros. We're finished with the first in human clinical trial. We're doing the follow-up. Last patient operated in June of this year. We opened up our A round just in the end of the summer, and we hope to making great progress, hope to close that by Q1. We've got a nice support again from the European Innovation Council and Bank that is committed up to 50% of a round. Even if we wanted to bump up our raise and oversubscribed up to 30 million euro, they would put in 15 million. So great support there. That'll take us through the 1 year results on the pivotal clinical trial. This is a class 3 IDE study we'll do in the U.S. Started in Europe and also do in the U.S. at 30 sites. It's a breakthrough designation product, so we're in sprint discussions currently to finalize the protocol and expect to start that recruitment basically this time next year. So just circling back to Tina, so she was treated with a microfracture and a COPLA. She only used crutches for 4 days just for balance, and the surgeon gave her permission to get on her 6-week follow-up visit. She was already doing daily step count over 10,000 steps. These are her MRIs on the right-hand side, pre-op and post-op, and you see fantastic results down there. Dr. Patella in Finland just believes that the MRI result is just flawless, revealing the lesion filled in with homogeneous tissue. It looks great. So the mission of Askel is to keep Tina and everyone suffering from painful cartilage lesions in motion. We keep you in motion, and the key point to remember about Askel is his ability to get this immediate post-op weight bearing. Please join us in this journey. I'll leave you with one Finnish word. Teach you a Finnish word, which is Askel, which means step. So step into the future with Askel Healthcare and help patients worldwide with knee cartilage defect repair. Avoid that horrible osteoarthritis situation. This is Verpi, which if you come to Memphis, you'll be able to meet Verpi and me to talk more and look forward to answering any questions.
It's great, Ted. So real quick, I do have a couple. So you've raised 11.5 to date. You've got 50% committed for the 22, and you guys are believing that it's only going to take basically those 2 rounds to get to approval, correct?
We expect, Chris, we're probably going to do a Series B at the back end of the trial. So the 22 is going to get us at least to the 1 year mark of the trial. So it's not going to take us all the way through. It's a 2-year follow-up, which is the protocol for this type of product. So instead of doing it then, I think with the clinical data, we feel like we'll have a higher evaluation inflection point, be able to raise that second tranche then.
Okay. And the other question I had is on product design. It looks like a sheet, right? In essence. Is this an onlay? Is it an inlay technique? How deep does the technique need to be prepared? And I would say the last piece of that is the big question in cartilage: fibrous versus hyaline.
Yeah, and that's where the PhD biomaterial and biomedical expertise of our 2 co-founders come into play. They were doing this experiment at Helsinki and Tampere universities and putting this product in horses. So it's kind of an onlay and inlay depending on the depth of the defect. So you can stack that. You can stack that fabric up to 9 millimeters if you want, if you needed to. But
so it's not necessarily cut. It's not cut to the geometry of the defect or any form of press fit.
Yes, it can be. That's the beauty of it. It's kind of modular. It comes with a small square patch and can be cut, to dimension, and then stacked. So they're single piece sterile packaged, which is done in house up in Finland. But it's a simple surgical technique. It's not real complicated.
Thanks.
So to follow on to that, Chris kind of stole my questions there, but does it need to be anchored at all? And then if you are using multiple sheets, where does this fall in as it relate to cost sensitivity to the other existing repair techniques?
Yeah, the cost profile, Jeff, is very attractive. So even if you use 2 or 3, and this is more for mild to moderate, defects in that first line surgical treatment, is still less expensive than what you're looking at in those second line treatments with MACI and CartiHeal and some of the others. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, good. I think so.
Thanks, Ted. It sounds like an exciting product technology. So 2 questions. One is on the IP front, the claims that you have. Is it a design patent, material patent for the actual material? What is the embodiment of the claims? And then the second is it possible with the polymers to use that also as a drug delivery platform for either antibiotics or anti-inflammatory or anything in addition to just providing a rapid healing solution for the lesion?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, Charlie, there's 3 patent families. One is a method patent for preparing this 3-dimensional scaffold, granted in Europe, and unitary patent in 17 countries and pending in 10 others. Then the COPLA patent, high priority after this technology to secure the specific composition of the collagen and the polylactide, is pending currently in Europe, US, and Canada. And then COPLA with cells kind of goes to your second question a little bit. Additional IP for additional value to use COPLA with cells for medical use. And there's a lot of interest, that has come up about, maybe even biomarkers and all kinds of things that can be used together with this technology. So the team's pretty much focused on staying focused on getting this initial study in and underway. But there's great potential for this material in other areas of sports medicine, like rotator cuff repair and other places that look for that collagen, scaffold matrix that creates a regenerative process.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Ted, do you have to do a microfracture before you put it in?
Yeah, so this is to be used in conjunction with microfracture, where you're going to get those blood cells that then get into and interface with the intricate, polylactide and collagen fibrous scaffold, and that's so combination of the two. And that I do know that the pivotal study, at least in the latest discussions with FDA, it is going to be. The comparison is COPLA versus standard surgical technique today, which is microfracture alone or debridement alone. So I'm not intimately involved in the details on that, but that's the beauty of some follow-up that anybody's got deeper questions they want to pose, or if you're going to be in Memphis at NVC, Verpi can jump in and help provide more detail on that.
Ted, one last question. Is there a commercialization strategy once you get to 2030 through the FDA, or is this something that over the course of the next 5 years with pivotal data and everything else, you're going to look to partner and or exit prior to that?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, Jeff, we're thinking about, and we've already socialize this with the usual suspects, who are very interested in this field, and to get this core technology into the hands of a larger organization that can put it into their commercial engine and make it widely available. So we expect and will plan for showing commercial viability and traction, in the early days. But I think as soon as we get the green light from the FDA and we show that it works well, and we can sell it, we've got a reimbursement strategy already in place with the best of the best who I've set up with the company. So we're planning for all of that over the next 5 years.
Thanks.
Yeah.
There's another question for you, Ted. In any of your animal studies, did you do any biopsies to figure out what's in there, to Chris's earlier point?
Yeah, so they've done quite a bit of that in the university work, and the GLP study is a sheep study. They had to kind of restart it because the lab that did it was a little rough in their handling of the sheep the first time around. So I think they got to see some samples of what it looked like, and they were pretty impressed about what they were able to see after a few months.
Okay. Well, great. Wonderful. Thanks for a great presentation. And for our last presenter, we're going to have Dr. Jeff Kleiner from Kleiner Device Labs. That's right, at Kleiner Device Labs. So go ahead and share your screen, Dr. Kleiner, and then we'll hand it off to you.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate everyone's attention, and I hope that I'll keep everyone awake as the last presenter today. Again, I'm Jeff Kleiner. I'm a spinal surgeon, and during my 25 years in practice, I got progressively disenchanted with what was available for me to perform minimally invasive spinal fusion operations. And as that frustration progressed, so did my interest in finding some answers to some of the challenges that I faced. And the result was a pretty substantial portfolio of intellectual property and some products. And Kleiner Device Labs is an opportunity to commercialize those products. Spine fusion surgery has about a 25 to 35% failure rate unless expensive adjuvants are used. And there's a lot of people that undergo these spinal fusion operations, about 300,000 plus per year in the United States. It's really expensive, and when things go bad, the challenge is not only in expense, but also the social circumstance. And failed back operations are responsible for countless lost jobs, lost marriages, and it's really a pathway to the opioid epidemic. It turns out that fusion success is directly related to the volume of bone graft which is delivered. So that really is the key issue. And I want to point out that some of the biggest advances in spine, artificial intelligence and robotics, they just don't address this failure to heal issue. In fact, we're still left in the spinal fusion arena with really archaic technology. Once again, to achieve a fusion, the goal is to maximize the scaffold and cells that you deliver. And the challenge is we're left with, in almost every other system, we're left with these round end dispensing devices which deliver the graft material right in their path, and they frequently jam. They're not very friendly to the coarse types of materials that you typically would like to use, including native bone graft, to perform spine fusions. They're difficult to clean, and they are, in a number of instances which have shut down hospitals, have been associated with this difficulty with cleaning. In addition, they jam and they have to be removed and reinserted, which creates issues with a potential nerve injury, as do the graft adjuvants, which are especially inflammatory. And the issue is, this is the target area, this is the site of the disc in Camden's triangle, and you can see the round device just doesn't take advantage of that. So this is what our system is. It's a simple insertion of an implant attached to a rectangular cannula. It's jam resistant, and it will apply any type of graft, from the most expensive to the local bone graft which has been milled. It comes pre-assembled in a single patient use tray. It is really the epitome of elegant simplicity. I could go through all of the things which the KG2 system, which is what this is called, has solved. We thought that we were just going to be taking care of these grafting issues, and it turned out that this concept is so far upstream that it ended up solving a whole lot of other clinical challenges and problems, including the procedural complexity. We've basically converted from a 4-step process into a single pass of a surgical instrument. And because of that, there's much less surrounding tissue damage because of the lack of in-out. Surgical site infection is largely reduced because the implant never has to be touched. This is applied, and then the graft material is inserted through the rectangular cannula and through the device, which serves doubly as an implant, a cage, as well as a conduit for delivery of graft material. Cuts down the time of the procedure, and it eliminates the requirement for having expensive technicians. All that the circulator people have to do is open up a box. So the market is growing rapidly, and particularly when we consider that the market for ambulatory surgery centers is growing rapidly, and there's not a lot of attention being paid to that by some of the big players. So again, an established growing market, and no question about it, this is the best in class technology. We did an engineering type of study on our first 50 patients, and we were astonished actually by what we saw. We knew we'd be putting in more bone graft, but the 9 different surgeons who use this system were able to apply a 10 ml on average amount of graft, which is remarkable. I can tell you I was really meticulous with that when I was in surgery. And the best I ever did with a T-lift was putting in about 6 ml of graft material, so pretty remarkable. The other thing is the time savings for this. On average, this part of the operation would take 15 to 20 minutes, and it was an average of 8 minutes to complete the sizing of the implant, implant it, graft it, and release the implant. So that's $60 a minute. That represents substantial savings to a hospital and to a facility such as ambulatory surgery center. No challenge at all with any of the graft materials that were used. They all go down this. The magic seems to be this rectangular shape, which takes advantage of all the surgical real estate at the annulotomy site. And it's been used in both ASCs and hospital operating rooms. Just to reflect back on what I said as far as the simplicity of the system, in all the spinal fusion operations that are performed, it's necessary to access the site and clean the disc, but you can bypass all of these steps with a single insertion, graft, and release of this KG2 system. The surgeons have been ecstatic about this, and you can see some of their comments. The bottom line here is this is a product which fits the market. If we look at the competitors, virtually every large medical device company has a three-dimensionally printed titanium implant, and they all look the same, at least on the surface. But once you take a look at the differences, you can see that the KG2 system, our Kleiner Device Labs product, is the only one with a flow-through design. It does that because its large back open window attaches without a pinch point to a rectangular cannula, and that makes it amenable to any type of graft. It's a single-use sterile kit, it's touch-free, and it's really designed to maximize graft volume. So we're about a year and a half, we figure, in front of our competitors and have a whole host of intellectual property to serve as a barrier to be squashed. Our traction has been impressive. We have 2 of these flow-through type products on the market now with multiple issued patents. There's over 35 of them and multiple patents pending. Good market penetration, considering we are doing this with one salesperson and the engineer, myself, and one other person handling the sales, visiting from site to site. We've had over 130 implantations, no functional changes requested. There's 1,800 of these KG2 kits which are built and warehoused, and we have a robust product pipeline which includes a bone graft delivery tool, which is an improved version, an expandable device, and an implant preparation tool. Great team. I won't dwell on anyone except our engineers, who I'm especially proud of. These gentlemen, Alan Burkholder, Greg Kazi, our Zimmer Biomet folks, who ran the engineering department, and in Colorado I got to know them well and have worked with them for a long time. Everyone else here are veteran and a great track record for delivering excellent products and profitable exits. So the M&A activity is I'm sure everyone on this call is relatively familiar with, and one of the big ones happening right now is with High Ridge, of course. But all of these are by process of innovation by acquisition, and that's certainly where Kleiner Device lands. So our investment ask, I really should preface this by saying we've raised about $8.5 million so far to get us to the point we are, which is extremely conservative considering what we've accomplished. We're asking for right now, in order to increase our sales force, expand it, and to replenish our inventory, is a $3 million convertible note. We would also love to have a lead investor and increase the amount of funds that we would be able to use for development of our products, which I alluded to. The note terms are described here, and the use of funds, again, noted in this pie chart. We anticipate our revenue will be over $30 million by 2028. This would be expedited by having a more involved sales team and by having more products, which again are just waiting to go to the next step beyond the prototype. In summary, we're an innovative medical device company. We have 2 products which are out, and this systematic approach really provides a benefit for all stakeholders in the spinal surgical community. Again, lots of intellectual property, and our plan is to raise $3 million. Thank you very much, and I'd be delighted to answer any questions.
Jeff, the $30 million cap, I assume that's post my
That's
evaluation.
Correct. Yes.
And then the technology, it's agnostic to other hardware, right? So you can go with other hardware solutions in any case, or do you have to use certain systems?
No, this works with anything, and it works in both open or MIS environments. And so long as the cannula is 15 millimeters or more, it works through any type of tube. So this has been used, again, in ambulatory surgery centers, in hospitals with open and MIS type of technique.
That's great, Jeff. And you've made a ton of progress since my days at Medtronic Spine. I like seeing what I'm seeing here. A quick question. So you've got 1 rep, it sounded like, and you've got 1,800 kits ready to deploy. Have you, with 1 rep especially, or maybe one that's traveling too, what are you seeing from VAC committee lead time to get them to jump on board, and are you getting what you expect to get in terms of that time?
It's a great question, Chris, and as you suggested, the VAT committees are a challenge. Where we have been successful, we have been awarded a breakthrough type of designation with an increased amount of money relative to the standard static cage. And that's because
I saw that at Providence.
Correct. Yeah. And that's because this is a system which again saves time and potential complications. At the same time, it remains a challenge in some of the larger hospital systems where you finally get on and then you're rewarded with a very low price. What we've decided to do with this is to go places that can't be as easily occupied by the large companies. So those are rural hospitals as well as ambulatory surgery centers. And the other thing that we're doing is finding partners in similar positions who have really unique and interesting products that mesh well with ours. And that combination, that coalition, has really become an exciting opportunity for us in the ASC market.
Would you be willing to share what your minimum is for investors for the convertible note?
Yeah, so I do this without my chief financial officer's blessing, who may send a lightning bolt at me. But the ideal
he can send it to me since I asked.
Yeah. So the minimum investment would be around $200,000.
Gotcha. Okay.
Jeff, thanks for your presentation. I think you had $400K in revenue on the one slide for 2024. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. How many procedures does that represent?
So I can tell you that there were about 100 procedures which were performed that year, and it's the average selling price for these devices. I'm not sure I can tell you, other than to say that we have a margin of about 80% of relative to our cost of goods. So it ranges that average. I'm sorry, the selling price averages based upon which facility we're in, and I kind of hesitate to give that information.
No, that's fine, no problem. I was really just trying to get more to the data side, patient outcome side of what kind of longitudinal data have you been able to sort of lock in from a selling standpoint going forward on, reducing cost, reducing, recovery time, other subjective measures, pain, whatever. What do you have on that front right now?
So what we have are the number one, you can use any type of graft that is available. It doesn't matter if it's long fiber or corticocancellous chips. So we save a lot of money because we can easily utilize milled local bone grafts. So from an expense standpoint, there's savings with graft selection. There's savings in terms of on average about 15 minutes per level that's fused. The other considerations are it's not necessary to have well or expensively trained technicians in the room, because you basically hand this pre-assembled device to the doctor, he mallets it in, and you graft. The other consideration is fusion rates. We have not been able to follow all these 130 plus cases, but I'm in close contact with the doctors who perform them, and I'm, knock on wood, yet to hear about a single pseudoarthrosis. Because there's so much volume of graft applied, the requirement, the insecurity that requires doctors to use bone morphogenic protein is essentially eliminated. So it saves money.
I would just a recommendation when you're out pitching for capital, for investment capital, to maybe try to have within your presentation some quantified data relative to actual cost reductions, doing comparisons, just so these margins are so thin at these hospitals that it's consequential when you can show if you're able to bring cost down. I know ultimately it's reimbursement and everything, but I'm just saying if you could show these benefits of reduced time, whatever cost time, those are things investors can get their heads around, I think.
Thank you, Charlie. That's really helpful. I will highlight that. There is that slide which shows our first 50 cases, but I probably didn't emphasize that enough. I appreciate your critique.
Yeah,
I think it was showing $900 savings per level at $60 a minute OR time.
That's right. Yeah, and of course that doesn't include the time that you save between cases, because once again you don't have to deal with having to fry all of your pans again.
True.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Kleiner, for a great presentation. And just a general thank you. I can see that Max decided to stay awake through the whole pitch event. So thank you to each of the presenters and to each of our esteemed panel. And just as an aside, I know there's a little controversy about this little thing and how this showed up in my office today. And no note, nothing. And the mystery has been solved, and it is none other than Jeff O'Donnell Jr., one of our panelists, that caused that little stir today. So thank you for that. And listen, I want to thank everybody, all those who attended today, and as well as our great group here. And our next event is November 6th. You can find it on the website, and please register. And then also if you want to pitch on this platform, I encourage you to go to the website, MSK Innovations, and there's a place where you can apply to present. And we would love to have you present. And there is a panel that goes through and reviews them all and helps decide what, how to group them together and whatnot. But we've got the companies already selected for November and some that are just kind of working towards December. So anyway, thanks again to everybody. Sure appreciate it. And wish you all the best.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Drew. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Drew.
Here's Drew, and thank you to the panel.
Cheers, everyone.